Hello, lovely learneds. Welcome back to ALifeLearned. So, as you can probably tell by the title, after much waiting, I finally have the conclusion of my dental adventures. Just to start off, this is it. This is my final product smile. I'm not happy with it still. If you had been following with my Instagram, you would have seen a few emotional breakdowns where I was really not happy with it, but I have come to learn that this is as good as it's going to get. So for anyone who is new to the channel, I'm going to just start off with the basic 5 things that I feel they did not tell me that they should have warned me about, that they weren't necessarily like bad dentists. I had some really great people working with me. I think they just are, they've either not had a literal implant themselves or they've done the procedure so much themselves that they just don't think to share these particular things with you. I dealt with basically 3 different professionals in going through this. The actual dentist, and I learned through all this that I have the most amazing dentist. The dental surgeon, who did a lot of the procedures, and then the dental ceramicist who built my prosthetic. But to start off, the 5 things that I feel anyone who might be going through this procedure should really keep in mind. Well, I'll add 6 because the first one I didn't think to add. Do your research. Number 1, do your research. That's not just something they didn't tell me, that's something that you should always do with any medical procedure you're ever having, and I don't know why, but I didn't. I didn't really look things up. And so the fact that you're watching this video right now, good move. Keep doing more research on what you're about to go through. If, say, this is coming ahead and you're not following up after having the procedure watching this, but you know what I mean? Do your research, number 1. Number 2, the healing may take a lot longer than expected. They tell you, I think for a lot of the different situations that I went through, they tell you 4 to 6 weeks for healing for each thing. That ended up being a lot longer for me in certain, some of the situations. Like there's a lot of stages, and some of the stages it was a lot longer. So just something to prepare for. A lot of complications can come up. Second thing is, if you're having an implant put in after a tooth that has been dead or broken or damaged for a long period of time. In my case, the damage happened when I was 17 and I was having it fixed at 27, literally 10 years later. There is a much higher chance that you're going to need a bone graft in order to have the anchor put in. So if you're not in Canada and that's not covered by public health care, because thankfully for me it was, make sure to budget that, because probably going to be a thing. Number 3, you are almost guaranteed to need some level of gum transplant when you're done. Almost. It depends on the situation, but your gums do begin to wear away immediately as soon as the tooth is gone, because your tooth being there is what supports the gum material existing, as well as, you know, flossing and brushing your teeth and taking care of them. But like, once it's like, look, we'll just see how my gums are gone. That's just a little example. But yeah, just keep in mind that you're probably going to need a gum transplant as well, so budget for that. If you find yourself in my situation where you have the ability to pay a little extra to get a custom color match, because there's like implants, excuse me, that you can get that are just like a generic solid color, and if you're getting, say, implants back here that you can still see when you smile, but they're not like in the front, that's probably more doable. It's not a big deal. But this is my front tooth, so I wanted custom coloring, especially because I have a lot of like, you can just see, the one that's darker, that's the replacement. But anyways, in real life, you can see that I have a lot of calcium highlights, in my teeth, just from, like, they were saying, like, the way I grew up, what I ate, blah, 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 how my mother fed me, whatever. And so it's just in random spots at the bottom of my teeth, but it would be very obvious if I just had a flat tooth color there, you know what I mean? So I went for custom coloring, and if you do that, it's going to take a lot longer than you probably think. Unless you're easily satisfied and it's like back here and it's not a big deal. But in my case, it took 5 tries, and 4 tries. I want to say 4. I can't remember now. And I'm still not entirely happy with it. I just sort of didn't want to keep fighting. So yeah, just know that if it's your front tooth you're dealing with, having be replaced, you're never gonna have the same smile you did before. You'll have a very impressive match, but you will still notice that it's different. People will not notice when you're talking, it won't be a big deal, but when you go to smile and show your teeth, you'll notice. And so it's just something to keep in mind. It's going to take a lot longer than you might expect, probably, unless you get really lucky, and it'll never match quite like your original tooth. And that's something I didn't feel like I was fully prepared for. They had me in this mindset that they were gonna, like, back up a second. The dental surgeon took pictures of my actual smile, and I guess that was to properly determine how to put the anchor in, but I thought it was to like they took pictures like this, you know what I mean? Like, I thought it was to see what my tooth looked like and, you know, give those pictures to the ceramicist, but they don't communicate, so no, that wasn't a thing. So yeah, I was just under the wrong impression through my own lack of research that it would be matched better and like look exactly like my old tooth. So my mistake. Big thing to keep in mind also with color matching is like, oh, ceramicists have a hard job because they're dealing with light refraction and they're trying to remake a color that is being created through a porous material and all the different things around that material. So like, this is porcelain and this is my tooth, right? And porcelain is solid and your tooth is porous, and so the way light refracts off those two materials completely different. So in some environments my tooth looks great, it's fine, it's great, no problem, you can't tell, and in a lot of others it's like just slightly off because it's all about light refraction, how the light's bouncing off of it, and it bounces different than my other teeth. So anyways, and the final thing, which was, I probably started counting wrong and counted 4 twice. I'm sorry. I know I was saying 6. I added an extra at the first, but the last point I wanted to make, 5 or 6, is if you have an experience similar to mine, for the 10 years that I had this broken tooth, so that being like most of my videos, by the way, that is a broken tooth in the front. It just looked like it wasn't dead. But I had pain whenever, sorry, I have this bad habit now, I don't know if you noticed, where I suck on my teeth because there's a huge gap here that needs to be filled in with a gum transplant, which is coming in a couple months hopefully. So I guess the journey isn't over, but it's mostly over. I wanted to give you guys a summary. But anyways, yeah, I had pain on a regular basis. Like every morning I would wake up and I'd push it forward a bit because it get pushed back, and then every once in a while I'll just kind of ache. And it would always hurt when I ate, but I just try to like eat off to the side. And I just kind of got used to it. And now I still, like, it doesn't hurt when I eat as much, although I'm not supposed to eat apples ever again. Like, not right off the apple. I could have to cut them up. Too lazy. But I still get phantom pains. And I don't know if that's going to fade because once you get the actual prosthetic put in, they have this thing that like sort of stretches your gums and like just puts a lot of pressure on the implant, And I don't know if maybe in time these pains will stop, because I've only had that for a couple weeks now. I can't remember how long it's been since I got it in now. School makes time fly and memory go. But it's not a good thing for school, is it? Anyways, so yeah, I still get phantom pains. And I guess maybe I can, if you guys are interested, I can provide an update in the future about whether I still get those pains. But something to keep in mind is you might still have random pains that you had when you had your damaged tooth. Apparently that's not a thing that goes away. So anyways, this is already becoming long, but for anyone who was just looking for, you know, the 5 or 6 main points about what to know if you're getting a gum transplant, there you go. Now, for anyone else who's interested, I'm going to bring you through the whole journey that I've been through in terms of this procedure. So, it is September 23rd, 2018. I got my tooth removed October 12th, 2017. So that's nearly a year's journey. I actually had to back up a little. I made the appointment in June of 2017 to have a consultation for my tooth removal. The consultation, I believe, was in August or September. I can't recall. It was late August or early September. And then I had the tooth removed shortly after my birthday on October 12th. And my toothless year began. 2018 was sadly in many ways the year that I did not smile, or that I feel like I lost my smile. Because first I got a dental prosthetic, thankfully helped or provided by assistants because I couldn't pay for the entire procedure. They paid for the removal and for the first dental prosthetic that I got. Although you'll eventually, I don't know if you guys remember in some of my vlogs throughout the year, you could see that there was a black gap at the top. So the reason for that was, okay, so I got the tooth removed, and then a few days later, once the gums had healed enough, they took a mold, and then I want to say a couple days later, I don't remember how long it was, they had this prosthetic ready for me. So I went about a week just with no tooth at all, nothing. And then they finally got that for me. It was still tender, but it was okay. I got used to it. At first I didn't eat with it at all because I found it really annoying. Like, you don't realize how much the textures that you're feeling in your mouth and on the roof of your mouth are a big contributor to your eating until you don't have it. But eating with dentures, eating with mouth insert, like things like this, prosthetics, just fucking sucks because you lose so much sensation in your eating. So I didn't want to use it at first, but then started increasingly having more and more embarrassment with eating without it because I was eating in public in some situations, and yeah. So at home I wouldn't wear it, but whenever I was outside, I started wearing it all the time. The 6th, November 6th, I went in for him to check the healing and everything, and he's like, okay. There was still a hole. I have some pictures, so I'm going to try and put some up through the video to show you guys. There was still a hole because I took the stitches out because they were driving me crazy. They were bugging me so much. Don't take the stitches out if you ever have this procedure. They're annoying, I know, but don't take them out. You're not helping yourself. So the gum didn't really close up very well, but he was like, it should be fine by the 28th. So they set an appointment for me to get the implant on the 28th. And then it didn't happen because I didn't have bone material. But so get this. The surgeon himself seemed great. Like, he was very compassionate, pretty good bedside manner. And they were really good with me in a lot of things. But on this day, they put me through all of the like stuff that they had to do to prepare me for the procedure before x-raying me. And it said right on my sheet, take her for an x-ray before, you know, setting her up. And so they had me all like IV'd up to be put under and everything set up. And then they're like, oh shoot, oh shoot, it says right there we should take her for an x-ray. Crap. Oh, I didn't even read that. It's just like, what? So they like wrap everything around me and, you know, to hold it to me so it's not like dangling, and then they're like, okay, go for an x-ray. So went for their x-ray, came back, and then they put me under, and then they wake me up to tell me, oh, we ended up finding that you didn't have enough bone mass, so you have to go for bone graft. And it's just like, why did you put me under then? The fuck. Excuse my French, but yeah. So because I didn't have the money to just pay for something like that, I didn't argue about the fact that it was covered by the public healthcare system, but that meant I had to wait until February something. But thankfully, I then got called because I was on a, like, how do you say, cancellation list. I got scheduled for January 24th instead. So I went in for the pre-op doctor's appointment where they had to like give me a little mini physical to make sure I was okay to get the bone graft, and then on the 24th I had to find a ride to a town near London because basically they have two different hospitals that do the procedure, one in London and one in St. Thomas, and I would have to wait a lot longer if I was going to stick with the one in London. So I was like, screw it, I'll find a ride to St. Thomas, and I just like found someone on Kijiji that gives rides. It was an interesting experience. He had a very like, I don't know how you describe these cars, like I call them bro cars, where like super leaning seats, like his back seats had huge lean to them, and it was actually really uncomfortable after the procedure. And he was an interesting fella, but you know, he did the job for the price agreed, so that's what matters. So I was super grumpy that morning. Went in, was terrified. It was very cold in the surgical room, and I remember feeling particularly uncomfortable with just, I don't know, the whole situation, because I don't know, I was just high anxiety. Although it was nice that the same surgeon that I had been dealing with already was someone who worked at that hospital to do bone grafts, so I didn't have to deal with a new doctor. Afterwards, it seemed like they didn't give me meds until after I was awake. I was in so much pain when I first woke up. It was, and then I think they gave me like morphine or something. I don't know what they gave me to deal with the pain. All I know is it made me really sick. I was like feeling really awful, but not in pain once I left. But yeah, went home, and I think I have a few more pictures I can share with you guys. I was a balloon. It was bad because like he had to. That's the side, right? So I had him go into the same, like I could pick which side I wanted him to take the bone from. So I was like, well, let's make it all on the same side of the face. So he took bone from back here to fill in there. It was not fun. So through all of these different dental procedures, by the way, I'm having to eat like super soft foods or like liquids basically, and that just doesn't do me well. Like when my stomach doesn't feel full, I start to feel gross, and when I'm anxious I don't feel hungry even though I am. So it got difficult. My partner tried his best to help like take care of me when he was able to be there, but there was a couple procedures along the way that he wasn't able to. So, okay, moving along. This is the part where this went to shit. So you'll see I eventually got a new one. You can see, oh, stupid camera. You can see, ooh, focus. Will it focus? No. Okay. You can still see how one is way bigger than the other, right? So this was the original, and basically when I got the bone graft, the surgeon did not want me wearing this to affect the healing. So he shaved it down a whole bunch, as you can see, to make sure that it didn't touch the gums at all and cause any issue, which meant I lost my smile like right then and there. I was quite mortified for the rest of the year talking to anyone at all, because as you guys saw in my video, even just talking, like saying, like expressing like this is very obvious. There's a huge black gap, and it just bugged me. Apparently some people would assume I just had something stuck in my teeth, or like something like that. I had a few friends say that because I was talking about it, and I was like, how did you not see it? They're like, oh, I did. I just thought, you know, they had something stuck in your teeth or something. I don't know. And I was just like, oh, well, no, I just don't have a tooth, see? And a lot of people would be like, whoa. I had fun with it in CPR training, because I hadn't had it put in then. I got CPR training in June. And one of the things that you get trained for is things like someone losing a tooth. And we were role playing. And so I was like, okay, all right. And we were supposed to like come up with what we're doing. And then, so like the girl comes out, and I had taken my dental implant out, and she's like, so what's wrong? My name's so-and-so, can I help you? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, what's wrong? I was like, I lost my tooth. And I like said it really open, like, and my tooth was gone, and she was just like, whoa. It was good. It was good. But anyway, sorry. So I had a little fun with it at times when the opportunity allowed. Kind of freaked my nephew out at times though when I didn't have it in. But anyway, so what happened from there? So after the bone graft, he scheduled me for a follow-up appointment a week later, and like took a look at it. I was like, okay, it's looking good, come back a week later. So I made another appointment a week later. He's like, okay, looking good, come back 2 weeks later. So I went back 2 weeks later. So now we're at February 20th, and he's like, okay, you know, still needs some healing, come back, what was it, 2 weeks later, in 2 more weeks. So now we're at March 6th. And he's like, still not looking like what we want. We want it to be more healed. Come back in 2 weeks. So now we're at the 21st of March. And then he's like, you know what? Still not looking good. Okay, come back in 2 more weeks. And at this point, I'm pissed. I'm like, oh my God. And so like, you know, I've been put off and put off and put off and put off. He's telling me that in a month or so it should have been healed, and we're now moving into April. So in 1 week after that, I'm like, something's not right. Like this, I can't remember what it was I was experiencing. PTSD brain. But something about it didn't feel like it was healing right. Or maybe I was having pain. I can't remember. But this is where I encourage everyone to take agency in your medical situations, in your health. I was just as much a part of this as anyone else. It's my mouth. And so just because he said wait 2 weeks to come back, like I didn't have to listen to that. So I called them and was like, something's not good. I need to get this checked out. And so they brought me back in March 27th and was like, oh yeah, this is really not right. Like your gum is way more mobile than it should be. It should be healed a lot more. We're going to bring you in for an emergency procedure in 2 days to check that out. I think your bone graft is being rejected. And I'm just like, fuck. I can't remember if I summarized any of this in my past gum procedure, tooth procedure videos, but yeah, I was freaking out at that point. But I was also really proud of myself for taking the agency to be like, this isn't right, and calling them and being like, I want to come back in, this isn't right. So yeah, went back in for a little mini procedure on March 29th, at which point they put me under again, and I think this was the one where Shane couldn't be there, and so I had to get my mom to do it, and that was not fun. But they woke me up after and basically told me, so it turns out that the bone graft wasn't completely being rejected, which is great. It was just like this little cap on top of the bone graft because, oh, I forgot to mention that. That's what, sorry, I need to back up because I obviously forgot. I think it's February 9th, either the 9th or the 20th. He's like, once again, I took the stitches out too soon. And he told me that they put in a lot of extra bone to try and provide a lot of material to work with. And the gum was not closing over the bone, and that's what he wanted. He's like, the gum needs to close over the bone. I did some research, learned that it's because the gum helps blood circulate throughout the bone and keep it alive, and so it is necessary. And so he froze me, I think it was the 9th, and it was brutal, getting the needle in the roof of my mouth. Really hurt and made me cry. And then he drilled out some of it, but he missed a bit. And then on the 20th, he drilled out more because he's like, it's still not closing. And then on the 6th, he drilled out a bit more, I want to say. And then on the 21st, oh, I can't remember how it went anymore. They ended up eventually, like, when I made that extra appointment to be like, this still isn't healing right, there's still a chunk of tooth there. They had to have one of his colleagues work on me because he wasn't available. And he used this spray stuff on my gums to deal with like numbing it for drilling out a bit more, and it worked so much better. It didn't hurt. Oh, I was so relieved. But then the appointment after that, he didn't seem to be informed that I had made that appointment with the other, his colleague, and so he was all ready to drill out more when I had already had it done. So that was kind of weird, and he ended up drilling out a bit more anyways. And the gum still wasn't closing over, and that's when they were like, okay, this isn't right. You know, your gum is too mobile. We need to go in and check out what the hell's going on. And so they went in, found out that most of the graft was fine, but there's like a little cap of bone at the end of it that my body was rejecting and trying to push out. So he took that out, sealed it back up. I actually left the stitches in this time, and you know, sent me off. And this was when, I think this was the time that they messed up my gums over here. You can't really see in this video, but on a couple of these occasions they had to cut my gums over on the side to create more elasticity to be able to pull the gums up over the tooth or the bone the way they needed to. They did that for the bone graft and for one procedure after that. I can't remember which one. I think it was the second mini bone graft procedure where they took out the cap. And so that totally screwed my gums on this side. It like, one of the stitches yanked up on my gums really bad on one tooth, and now there's a huge gap there that tons of food gets stuck in. So I was just like, this is bullshit. You should have to fix this. And he's like, yeah, we'll deal with it. And he failed to tell me until the very end that they don't do gum transplants at all. That's a completely different doctor. So displeased that they basically are costing me more money because of the way that their procedures ended up screwing up my gums. But I suppose that's just another thing to know to anticipate is even if you don't have your tooth missing long enough to have gum degradation nearly as much as me, you could have some kind of stitch work or something else from the procedures screw your gums in some other way, and you'll still need a gum transplant. So something to keep in mind. So I continued on with this awful prosthetic for quite a while, and I hated it, and it was like mental torture going into public with it, but I just dealt. And then after I got that, little mini fix up of the bone graft, he then scheduled me for like 3 weeks later to check up, and he's like, okay, looking good, 3 weeks more, and then I should finally be able to clear you. And so on May 30th, he looked at it again and was like, hey, looking good, I'm going to give you the green light and let your dentist know. And so he did, and then my dentist called me and was like, okay, he gave us the green light for the beginning of July. And I was like, oh, I thought he meant June. Bullshit. But okay, so I made an appointment to get another impression, like mold thing, done of my face with the healing cap and the implant in, so that they could start getting ready to put the prosthetic in. So then I made an appointment with my dentist on the 24th, at which point I think that's when we did the color match, and we were like, okay, we decided that I definitely want to do custom coloring. And so I think I had my parents drive me to the lab, which is like way on the outskirts of London. But it was a bitch to deal with, to get a custom color match. And he just like brought me up into this really nice office that they have built in the top of a house out in the boonies, with like glass everywhere for walls, I guess, for light to get through. And he sat there and like painted a tooth in my face. It was like he like held it up to my face, and then he would paint a little, and then hold it up again, and then paint a little. And then he was like, okay, all good, I'll send it off, and your dentist will call you and let you know when. It should be about a week or so. And so went in and super excited. I believe it was the 14th. It was either the 14th of August or the 16th of August, but either way, I went in and they put it in, and I was like, my dentist was like, no, this is awful, I'm not going to put this in your mouth. What do you think? And I was like, no, it's too dark. And so she's like, okay, I'll let him know. I told you, unfortunately, this was part of getting a custom one, is it's not always going to match, but we'll send it back, and we'll see. And then I think what happened was he was then like, well, can you come out to my lab again? And that was like really inconvenient because it was hard to get help from my parents or afford a cab. And so they thankfully found someone that was able to help me get a ride out there. And so I sat out there for longer this time while he again tried to color compare right in his office and paint it. And then I made an appointment on August 27th. Or no, okay, so on the 16th, I think what happened was I went into my dentist and they put in the little anchor thing that they put the prosthetic on. So there's like this thing that they put in your, it's like a screw, and then they screw it in, and then they like ratchet it in, and it's like, I'll show you a picture, it's like this little fang thing, and that's what they put dental cement on and like anchor your prosthetic to, and because it's a certain color and because it's going inside the porcelain, it's reasonable for the ceramicist to feel like that will influence the color that he comes out with. So he's like, can you get that put in and then have her sent here, and then I will do the color compare. So I had that little fang thing in my mouth while he was like doing the color compare that time, and he was like actively sliding the prosthetic on, painting it in my mouth. It was kind of weird, it tasted funny. Dropped it in my mouth a couple times. It's really hard to handle, so you can't blame him, but it's like, okay, I guess I'll try that again because you just licked all the paint off by accident. But yeah, so did that for a while this time, like it took a lot longer. and then made another appointment for August 27th. And this time I'm like, he spent so much longer on it, and it looked really close, so I'm feeling good about it. And I went in, and it didn't match. It was dark again, and it's just like, and I think this is where I had a little mental breakdown. It might have been the last time, but I think it was this time, because it was really, really affecting me that I was dealing with this, and the black gap. Like, okay, I don't have a tooth, but I also don't even have a functional prosthetic in the meantime, and it's really messing with me. I can't smile. I can't even talk without people seeing it. I hate it. I hate existing right now. And so my dentist was really, really empathetic and sweet. She's a lovely person. And she's just like, well, why didn't you tell us that before? We can get you another one. I was like, I can't afford another one. Like, I'm still trying to afford this. And, well, actually at this point I had paid, but I knew I had to pay for a gum transplant too, which I have no idea how I'm gonna fucking do. But you know what I mean? So like, I knew I can't do more. I can't pay for more. And I know that ODSP is not gonna pay for more, because they don't cover stuff like that just all the time. It's like once every 5 years probably, or something like that. So it's at least once a year, if not, you know, more, once every 2 years or so, you know what I mean? So like, and I'm not at a year yet. And when I'm saying this, it was in August. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm bawling. I'm so upset about it. She's like, look, it's okay. We will figure it out. We'll get you another prosthetic. And then she goes, I think she walked away and called them, and she came back and she's like, they're gonna make you another prosthetic. They're gonna eat the cost and they're gonna make it for you. And I was just like, that's so amazing. Oh my God, thank you. Like, I can't even express what this means to me because of how much it affects me to have this dental piece. And I'm pretty sure that was actually the 16th that happened. So it was the 27th that they gave me this new one, which was really well done. Like, it was a really good match. How? Matches really well. And like the shape of it was much more, it's this one, professional. Like, I don't know, it was, yeah, this one seems so much more cheap. You know what I mean? So it's just like, wow, thank you guys so much. I really feel like I'm being taken care of, and that you care about my well-being, and you're not just trying to make money off of me. And like, by the end of it, the ceramicist didn't make a fucking penny off of me. He ate a lot of costs because of how many times he had to redo it, and I feel awful because he was actually a really nice person, really thoughtful, compassionate, mindful. If anybody's interested in some random music, his son is a DJ who, his name is Overwork, work with an E, WERK, and I love his song Canon, just saying. I came across his work in the past, and then through him doing it for work and us chatting while he's doing his work, the ceramicist mentioned that his son was this person and his name was Overwork, and I went and looked him up on YouTube and was like, whoa, I'm a fan of him, this is amazing. So, random music fact there. Go check him out, he's a good DJ. But anyway, so, went in on the 27th, still didn't match, made another appointment for the 11th. That's when it was. And went in first thing in the morning, 8:30, and they were like, I was worried as soon as I saw it in the package, so I don't know. And then they put it in my mouth and they're like, I don't know, what do you think? And I was like, it's dark. It kept pulling gray is what they kept saying, so like it kept looking really gray in my mouth compared to the other teeth. And so they called him, and he actually lives downtown, so like a few blocks away, so he just came right over and looked at it, and he's just like, all right, let's do this again, let's go to my lab right now and we'll do this again. And I watched him literally build the entire prosthetic that time. So like in the past he had the tooth built and shaped and he just needed to color it, like he had the base color made. But this time, like, I watched him start from scratch and like shape the whole thing and like put porcelain on it to color it, and he explained to me how incredibly complicated it is because he's like having to create the color that the dentist is asking for, whereas because he's dealing with different products than what she's dealing with. So she's like, I want this color, and he's like, well, I don't actually have that color, I have to make it. So, but he's good, and he did. So yeah, it was a really interesting experience. I got a few more pictures that I can put up to share with you guys to show like what it all looked like. It was interesting. And so I from 8:30, 9ish in the morning until, what time was it? About noon, 11:30, noonish. I just watched him build my prosthetic, the one that's in my mouth now. And then he brought me back to the dentist, and he's like, we'll see if they can put it in temporarily for now, and then maybe you could get an appointment later to get it done permanently, because I had an appointment that I was trying to race to. Like, that was the big time pressure, was I had an appointment as well with my doctor at 1 that day, and so he was trying to make me not late for that appointment while getting this done. And so they sat me down and they put it in, and they're like, okay, what do you think? And I liked it. I have since decided that I like it less, because that's me. But at the time I was like, yes, this is so much more my tooth than anything that you guys have shown me before. Like, it matches finally. Yes, thank you. I hate that I don't have gums. I hate that it's so dark up here and looks awful, but it looks like I have my tooth again, so thank you. Yes, we're good. And so they're like, okay, there's no way for us to temporarily put it in, so we're just gonna put it in. Another thing to keep in mind if you're ever getting this procedure, be sure. That's what happened, and I forgot to mention. So I think it was the 27th, or no, the 6th, at some point in August, when they compared one and put it in, my PTSD sort of it interfered with my judgment, and I got the impression that that was as good as it's gonna get. And so I was just like, okay, yeah, I guess, you know what, it matches, let's go, let's put it in. And they did, and then I was kind of bawling on my way out. I was like, actually, I hate it. Like, I can't stand this. It looks, the more I kept looking at it, the more I was like, this is awful. I am never smiling again. And so once I got home, I was racked with guilt and shame and confusion, and I didn't know what to do with myself. I was so upset. And I worked myself up, and I called my dentist, and I was just like, I feel terrible, but I actually don't like it. Like, I will never smile again if this is what I'm stuck with. And she's just like, it's okay, it's fine, bring you back in, take it out, we'll do it again. And I was just like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, don't be sorry, don't cry, it's okay. We're going to deal with this. We're going to keep doing it until you are happy. That is what you pay for. And so I dealt with a lot of guilt after that, but she was amazing about it. Sorry. So then she took that out on the 27th. So it must have been the 16th that she put in the one, and I was like, no, I hate it. And then the 27th she took it out, and they're like, okay, he's going to try one more time. And then the 11th, put it in, didn't like it, and then that morning he rebuilt another one. And after all of that, I was just like, it is pretty damn close. So the fact that it's a slight tint off, and generally only in certain lighting, I'm just like, oh, it's good. It's better than it was before. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. This guy has worked so hard. My dentist has been so compassionate. Everybody is suffering right now. This is good. But I really learned a big lesson, that business is not friendship. And it doesn't mean you should have no heart for other people or consideration or compassion. But it does mean that if you have paid for a service and been promised something for your payment, there's nothing wrong with insisting that you get what you paid for. And if it takes a long time, if it costs the person a lot, if they don't get what they should or what they were hoping out of it in terms of profit. To a degree, that should not be something that you let hold you back from making sure that you got what you paid for. And the ceramicist was actually the one who sat there, and because we had a lot of time to talk while he was building the tooth and coloring it those other times, and he's just like, no, like, you gotta, like, I appreciate your empathy, but at the same time, this is business. You paid for something, you were told you were going to get something. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being sure that you got it. And so I'm just like, all right, I really need to get that through my head, because I've caused a lot of suffering, or at least it felt like I had, in getting the one put into my mouth and then having to have it like drilled out. That was an experience. So yeah, be sure that the prosthetic you're getting, if you're getting color matching and you're getting it custom colored rather, be sure that what you get is what you want before you say yes, put it in. Particularly because getting it put in hurts. They use dental cement, as I mentioned, and this baby ain't coming out. But with that, it's not perfect. It comes out the seams a little, and if any of it's left, it can affect my gums and my gum growth and my health of my mouth. And so they need to make sure to scrape every bit of cement that's around the root of the tooth off, and that hurts a lot. It is not comfortable to have your dentist scraping somewhat vigorously against the edge of your gums. So be sure, so you don't have to go through that procedure twice like I did. So yeah, funny enough, September 11th of all days, I got my tooth put in. I'm sorry it took me a bit to finally get around to making this video, but as you can tell by the length, I sort of needed a bit of time to do it. So I do have a gum transplant coming up. The consultation for the gum transplant is actually not tomorrow, but the Monday after. And then I'm not sure when the actual procedure will be, but I'm going to be trying to hopefully work it out with my Christmas holidays, where it doesn't interfere with any of my tests or schooling at all. I can just heal over the holidays, see? Because that's a pretty big concern for me. I can't be taking class off. So yeah, we'll see about when I can schedule that. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments if you'd like to know more about the journey. But otherwise, this is about the gist of it. It's been my own little hell. 2018 was definitely the year I lost my smile. But I don't wake up and push my tooth forward anymore. And it doesn't hurt to bite down on things anymore. And I knew with life costs and stuff that if I didn't get it done then, I was not going to have the money to afford it. Because, like, I had to pay for the custom coloring, I had to pay for the dental implant, I had to pay for the prosthetic. And it all came together to be like $1,800. It was about $1,800 for the prosthetic and $2,800 for the implant, Canadian. So that's nearly $5,000, which is what I was told, nearly $5,000. Oh, and I haven't paid for the implant yet. I have no idea what that's going to cost me. So yeah, if you're ever dealing with the situation, anticipate a lot of cost, and be an active agent within your healthcare, because you know what's best, you know what's going on. Just listen to them, do your research, and then trust your gut. You know what I mean? Don't let them just tell you what to do, because you know, me taking agency is why the graft ended up working out okay, sort of thing. And me being able to speak up despite messing up is why my tooth looks a little bit better and not entirely gray. You know, so important things to keep in mind. But yeah, that's my journey. If you can relate, please feel free to comment below. If you have anything that you feel anyone else needs or should know that's going to go through this experience, or might be going through this experience, please also share that below. Otherwise, I apologize for this being so long, but thank you for watching to the end if you did. And it may be a while till my next video with being so busy with school, but I will always have something else coming out eventually. So please do join me again next week or sometime soon where I try again to share a little something I've learned or experienced in life.